What's up, everybody? It's a beautiful Sunday day. No rain in the forecast, which is really nice. You know, I didn't move out to the desert 20 some years ago because I like the rain. I don't like rain. We do need it. It's a necessary evil, but it's definitely not fun when you're trying to build. So I'm thankful that we got some days ahead of us that are dry. I know a lot of off-gridders and homesteaders out there that do this too are also in the same boat. You know, like I said before, we're not equipped for this type of stuff out here for long term. So when it rains a lot, it becomes problematic for a lot of reasons. But so on this video, I decided, I was talking with my wife this morning, and I was like, you know, what is it about being off-grid or homesteading right now that would really be helpful to tell people that are thinking about doing this or something like this? And one of the immediate things I came up with, it was actually because of what my wife was in the middle of doing, was call it the hidden expenses of homesteading, living off-grid homesteading. So what I do here, or what we do, is off-grid homesteading, which we're building a homestead from the ground up, meaning we're building a house, we're building our farm, we're building our own electrical grid here, and water catchment. We're basically not going to rely on any municipalities for anything. We want to be able to do it on our own. So when you do this, if this is what you're looking into doing, I'm going to tell you that, I hate to tell you this, but it's the truth. There are a lot of hidden expenses when it comes to doing this that you will not even think about until you started doing it. And I actually have a list of them. There's so many, and I actually forgot probably a lot of them. So I did write a list down, like with my wife. I just jotted some things down, and I'm over here taking the goats for a walk so they can come out and eat some of these weeds here. So I figured, since I'm gonna walk the goats anyways, I might as well just take you guys with us. So anyways, goats, they're our pets, so they like to come out here and just, you know, mosey around. I like walking them. My wife walks them like all the time. But so first thing on my list that I had here, that, and this isn't in any kind of order, it's just stuff I jotted down. If you have an RV, propane. I'll tell you, I've never had to buy propane in my life. Like, I only bought propane when I would go camping, but I would just get those tiny little green bottles, you know what I'm talking about. I didn't grill much outside, so I never bought those types of propane tanks either. But when I started RVing, when we got the RV, which is its own expense, which I'll talk about, we had to start buying propane. And the reason we had to buy propane is because the refrigerator in this RV works off of propane. And if you want to cook, you need propane. So propane is a necessity out here, in my opinion. You could do without it. So all these things I'm going to mention, by the way, you can do without these things. These are not things, like, in my opinion, if you are really bushcrafting or doing something, you know, just straight up, you know, gangster style off grid, you don't need any of this stuff, most of it. I mean, I could do it without it, you know. I don't want to, though. So propane, you know, it's not that expensive. It's our refrigerator runs off it, which it's more efficient to run it off the propane than it is the electricity. The way I have it set up with the solar panels, another expense, but it is a bill you should be aware of. Cost us $40 to fill up our tanks. I don't even know the size of these tanks. They're bigger than normal tanks. You know, I could tell you guys some other time. But they are big tanks, so you know, it costs us about 40 bucks. Depending if I use the water heater, so if we want hot water, so we do have hot water in this RV, but honestly it burns through the propane so fast that we just haven't even used it. We used it one time. So if we really want a hot shower, you know, we could just turn it on and say, all right, let's have a hot shower day today. Then we could do that. But you know, it does cost money. None of this stuff is free. So next on the list is gas for generators, for your cars. as I told you in earlier videos, gas was a pretty substantial expense for us initially. It was costing us 12 bucks a day average to run our generator. And man, that adds up quick, and that is not a bill that we had thought about. So it was definitely something where it just, I don't know, escaped the budget. I didn't realize how much that was going to cost. So there was that. And going down the list, generators, you know, when you go off grid, like I said, it just depends on what you want. You know, if you want to do this bushcraft style and you don't want to rely on any electricity or much of it. Bernie, come here. Come here. Come on. Bernie. The dog's trying to escape. So if you want to rely on, you know, if you need electricity, you know, a generator is going to be pretty important, and you might need 2 of them, you know. So we got a couple generators, and we spent, you know, about, I think, 1,100 bucks, 1,200 bucks on the 2 generators, and you know, we kind of need them if we're building a house, which, you know, that's something we had to have to run my power tools. I need a generator, so you know, that's an expense. What's next? The solar panels, you know. As you know, I set up my solar. Solar's not cheap. It's getting cheaper. The panels weren't what was expensive, you know. The panels, I was able to get the panels for 50 bucks a pop. They, you know, they can range. You can get new ones, but honestly, I was happy with the used ones, especially since we're gonna just be, you know, experimenting for a couple years here. So I got used panels. I also got used batteries, which, you know, that's a tough one. You probably don't want to buy used batteries unless you really do your research. It's a very risky gamble. We're okay so far. I'm okay with the batteries we got. We're actually, they're working okay, but batteries are super expensive. That's like, that's the most expensive part of solar, is just the battery bank, you know. So that's a big expense. I mean, you could spend thousands on that stuff. So I'll move on because there's a lot. The RV itself. Now, if you're in the county we're in Cochise County, you know, based off of the county's rules, you have to have an RV if you're going to stay on your property to build. That's their rules. Now, I'm not going to go into that too much because, you know, I think there's, you know, probably gray areas in there, but, you know, for the most part, if you have neighbors around you or eyes on you like we do here, you got to do it. You know, it only takes one person to report you, and you're going to have problems. So, you know, and frankly, when you have a nicer RV or something that's going to keep you comfortable at night and get a good night's sleep because you're going to be working really hard, it's worth it. You know, at first I was against it because I was pissed, you know, that the county was like, man, why are they going to make us do these hoop jumping bullshit? You know, I was thinking, you know, I could just build a shed and stay in it, and you know, you can do that too. And I think honestly that would have been a more economical thing for us to do, because then I could have used that shed for other purposes when I was done. But you know, it's just the rules. So anyways, we ended up buying an RV. That was not cheap, and you know, it was close to, it was like 10 or 11,000 bucks, you know, for an RV, which, you know, it sucked. But it's a nice RV, everything works in it. We just made sure we got something, like, you know, if we're gonna spend that kind of money, we're like, I want something I don't have to do any maintenance on it, like any fixing, I should say. Maintenance is part of it, but you're gonna have to do maintenance. But something where I don't have to fix something, I don't have to retrofit anything on it. I don't want to be fixing the RV when I'm supposed to be building a house. So that's something you got to consider, you know, when you're doing this. What's next? So toilet supplies for the RV. This is something that I didn't think about. One of the things that you really will start to understand is that these septic systems in these RVs, they start to stink. And yeah, they have a good storage capacity, but the problem is that when it gets hot out here, that stuff starts to reek, man, after a few days in the heat, you know. So you got to get these chemicals, like, to treat the septic and the gray water. And, you know, so that stuff, it's a bill, you know. Now it's, you know, I spent 12-13 bucks on this AquaChem treatment. It's probably the best stuff that I found so far that works. You know, I just spent the extra money because the other tablets weren't working really well, at all. And so I just said, you know, I'm just going to spend more money and get the better stuff. But, you know, about 12, 13 bucks a month for that, you know, to treat these tanks. So, you know, that's a bill. It adds up, you know. After a year of that, that's, you know, a few $100. So little things like that. Building tools. I mean, now there, man, what are we talking about now? You know, we could be talking about, you know, thousands of dollars on tools. It just depends. It all depends on what you're trying to do. You know, even the most minimum building, if you just did the earth bags, the hyper adobe, you know, you can get away with minimal tools there. But, you know, nothing's free. That's like a lot of sweat equity too, and you're going to be spending a lot of, you know, your vital life force, you know, building like that. So, you know, it's all just depends on your situation. You know, if you got kids that are helping you, you got a family that's doing it. For my situation, you know, we kind of do, you know, a little bit of a hybrid setup, like where, you know, I do a lot of the natural building, but I also want to rely on some tools, and I'm not, you know, afraid to call my neighbors up and ask them to pay them to dig something out for me. Which, you know, you could buy a tractor, and, you know, honestly, mathematically speaking, when you really do the hard math on a spreadsheet, as far as the way we looked at it, a tractor is a very expensive investment. And it is an investment, you know, and you could definitely, God, I could use a tractor. There's no doubt about it, man. Every day I wish I had one. But the price for these things is just, it's astronomically expensive to have a tractor. And, you know, to get your money back out of that thing, when we started doing the math on the things we want to do here versus just paying someone to do it, it still leaned on the side of just paying someone else to do it, especially since I got neighbors close by. Yeah, it's inconvenient, you know, because I have to, you know, ask them when and where, but, you know, to me right now, a tractor is just something that I just don't want one right now, because I don't like wrenching. That's another thing. If you want to get a used tractor, yeah, you could save a lot of money, but you better know how to wrench, and you better enjoy wrenching, because I'll tell you, both my neighbors, man, they're always fixing these damn things. So, and if you get a new one, well, you know, 30 grand plus, you know, 25,000 plus, just depending on what you're getting. So it's a really expensive bill. So unless you have like money saved in the bank for this kind of thing, you know, you're going to be buying other tools. So I bought a jackhammer, I bought, you know, all kinds of little saws and doodads and extension cords. That's another one that was a surprising bill. When you get a lot of extension cords and electrical wire, you know, it adds up. So I spent probably hundreds of dollars on those things. What's next on my list here? Oh, fencing for cows. Yeah, so I did a video on that, where what it was like, you know, living here in the open range. And, you know, the cows just wander around here, and they wander onto your property, and, you know, it sucks kind of. Like I said, I ain't got nothing against the cows, but it does suck because you got a lot of shit, you know, you don't want trampled and stuff, and all it takes is one, you know, a cow to stampede, or, you know, something happens and they just can trample all your stuff. And so fencing, I mean, man, to fence everything here is, and we have a smaller plot, you know, it's you know, 15 or 16 acres, I'm sorry, and, you know, 16 that we have to fence, and, you know, you run into the thousands there to do that. So it all depends on how you want to do the fence, but it's not cheap. So that's a bill right there. What else? Travel for the cars. You know, if you're living out in the middle of nowhere, be prepared. You know, if you have to travel into town, you have you know, a different situation. Like I said, this is not a black and white thing here. This is really just depends on your situation. So the numbers here can just vary, you know, based on where you are and what you're doing. See, we had to live close to the county line because my wife works at the university, and she has a career there, you know, and she's a research scientist. So we have to be able to get back and forth like relatively doable. You know, we couldn't live way out in like Elfrida and some of the places that are way out in the county. There, honestly, the spaces are nicer there. You know, they're a lot more open and a lot less people around. But man, you know, that travel wasn't going to happen. So, you know, it was too much. It was like, nah, that's not even doable for us. You know, and we have a kid still in high school, 2 sons that are older now, one of which just went to college, and we got one more who's just started high school. So part of that tough decision was when we decided to do this, you know, we could have waited for him to get out of high school, but you know, I didn't want to wait any longer, man. You've been waiting long enough. So, you know, that could have waited 4 years. But anyhow, what this brings me to is the travel expenses, you know, for our cars now. Like, you know, we actually have to take him into Tucson to go to school because we didn't want to rip him away from his friends and his, you know, what he's got going on over there. So, man, that's a bill. I mean, the gas for the cars, you know, it's 30 miles to the gallon for our smallest little car, which we use. The electric car, it's not even doable because, you know, where we live out here, it's not going to get a big enough charge. It's not a Tesla. So, you know, we can only go, you know, on the freeway, you can't even get 100 miles on that thing. So, you know, we have to do that, and I have to rely on, you know, just paying for gas. So it's a bill. Let's see, next, trailers, a truck, both optional. You know, in my earlier videos, I was hauling stuff in that little car. Actually, I had a trailer that I bought for it, and I would just haul stuff in that trailer in that car, and you know, I did it for as long as I could, and then I ended up having to get a truck. And you know, I got a big truck, one that can haul lots of weight, but the gas mount sucks on it. If something breaks down on it, I'm screwed. I gotta fix it, or I gotta pay someone to fix it. So then the truck itself, that's a bill. So, you know, that can range, you know, whatever you want to spend on a truck, you know, $3,500 to $20,000 just for 30,000, 50,000. I mean, it just really depends on your situation and what your finances look like. Water hauling. Right now, I purchase water from our neighbors. It's pretty cheap, you know, we don't really spend that much on it. But you know, eventually to haul water, you got to kind of make a decision. If you're out here and you're not going to do a well, okay, a well, that's, you know, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars for a well. I'm not even going to go into that because the prices are all over the map depending on how deep your well is. We've done a lot of research into it, and you know, where it's like I would rather just spend the money on water catchment systems than to spend the money on a well, because at least on a water catchment system I can take, you know, the worst year, a drought year, and do my calculations on a drought year and still spend less money than I'm going to spend on a well. That's the math that we did, and it actually does work out. But you gotta, you know, a lot of work though. It's a lot of work. So I'm gonna pause here, then I'll go back to the next part of the list. All right, so I don't remember where we left off. I think we were at water and hauling water. So yeah, that's, you know, the prices can be all over the map for that stuff, but it just depends on your situation. You could have, you know, neighbors like I do who are willing to let me purchase the water. You can go haul it, you know, like you can go into Benson here and you can actually get water for the well. It's relatively cheap, but you got to have the truck and the trailer and the containers to haul that water. So even though, yeah, you can haul I think it's like 1,000 gallons for like $3. So it's super cheap, but you know, do you have the thousands of dollars of equipment and you know, things that to get that water back to where you're at? That's where the problem comes. So a lot of times people will pay people to haul water, and out here in Arizona, it can range. It really just depends on where you live and who you know. But you know, people spend, you know, a couple $100 a month on hauling water, so that's a bill there. Let's see, next on the list I got, okay, this is a good one, laundry. You know, we bought a off-grid-ish style washing machine that has a spinner and everything built into it. It's actually a really popular model. I think it's called a Panda or something like that. And I haven't even hooked it up yet. It's been, you know, over almost going on 2 months here soon, and I've not even used it yet because we just had so much shit going on. Like, and I'm sorry about my language, but we had, you know, all these storms that came and just threw everything into chaos for us for a few weeks. And you know, my wife and I like to, you know, especially my wife, you know, she's a planner and she likes to have things, you know, mapped out, and it's not fun, you know, when you get thrown into those situations. And I know life will do that to you depending on what you've done in life, but you know, so it's happened to me before, and it's, you know, life can just throw you chaos, and you know, we had to deal with the chaos. So everything changed, all the plans changed, And so back to laundry, we've been just going to laundromat in Benson, and you know, the good news is you can do all your laundry in one shot. The bad news is it's a laundromat. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's not really that fun. It costs a lot of money to wash clothes. And so, you know, when we do our laundry, that's where my wife's at right now. She's getting laundry, she's getting water, because we buy water. We've been buying water even in Tucson, like for our drinking water. We just get the filtered stuff, and you know, eventually we'll have our own reverse osmosis and all that set up here. But right now, we just buy water. It's not that expensive for our drinking water. It's like $1.25 for 5 gallons. We usually just get, you know, about 20 gallons worth at a time. So anyways, so there's a laundromat that costs money. So if you're used to living, you know, in suburbia and you have a washer and dryer, till you have a way to power that washer and dryer when you're out here, and you have a setup to get that water, that gray water gone. And you know, washer and dryers take a lot of juice. So, you know, that's something you got to consider when you go off grid. That's going to change. You know, there's a lot of things that are going to change there. So on to internet, boosters, Wi-Fi routers. Okay, so here's the situation for us. Now, once again, everything on this list that I'm talking about is not necessary. This isn't stuff you have to have. Literally, I looked through this list and I'm like, man, if I was like bushcrafting or just going out and doing my thing, you know, by myself, I don't need much. I've proven that. I've come out here and not needed anything. I've stayed in my car when it was cold and I didn't want to drive back, you know, when I was building animal stuff out here. So I could sleep in a car. It's not fun. I slept in the shed a couple nights, you know. You're not supposed to, but I did, and just you know, not a lot. But my point is that I personally, just a single hermit, could probably do with very little. And I really believe, you know, that I could. I know I could, and there's a lot of people that have channels that do that. So here's the thing. I'm not slamming any of that stuff. Like I said, me personally, I could totally live like that. I actually like the simplicity of that kind of life. I really do. But when you have a family, you have kids, you have a wife, you know, my wife, I love her, you know, this is one of the things I love about her. She has standards. So she's just like, you know, to her, she's not snobby or nothing like that. She's like, look, I want to have air conditioning at night. You know, I want to be able to take a shower every day. I want to be able to, you know, things that most people want. You know, it's not like you're asking for a lot. So, you know, when you want those things, though, it comes with a price tag. And a lot of times the price tag, when you go off grid, it's very expensive to do these things. So, you know, for us, it just, you know, the RV was a big one because that's how we were going to be able to do a lot of those little necessary things. So to get to the internet, boosters, right, Wi-Fi routers, none of this stuff is needed. I can actually download or upload videos from YouTube on my phone just using the Wi-Fi booster I'm sorry, not the Wi-Fi, it's just a signal booster for a cell phone. We paid about $300 for the signal booster, and my earlier videos out here, I showed me installing it on the RV. Now this thing works great. I'm not sponsored by these guys. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I don't have that many subscribers, but I will say this high boost, I think it's called. I can just ask me in the comments and I'll tell you what it's called. But you know, we did some research. We found something that was 5G compatible, and I set it up. It was a few $100, so it wasn't cheap, man. It was not cheap, but it did boost our signal on our cell phones tremendously. And because we can see a tower from where we're at here, but the problem is that when you're in the RV, the bars on our phone were at 1, sometimes no service. It would just go in and out of no service, 1, 2 bars, no service. So for my wife, that's not acceptable. She can't do it. She actually has to do work from home, so it's not an option. She has to have reliable internet, and that's the world we live in today. I don't always like it. I think it sucks. But it is a necessary evil for people that have to have a career and have to work remotely, okay? So that's when I'm saying this, I'm very aware that we don't need this. So before I get unsolicited advice or whatever, I'm just telling you, I already know this. But like I said, everybody's situation is different. So our situation, we have to have good internet, and that is expensive. So out here, we're not running a wire to our property. We don't have electricity, anything out here. So we're out in vacant land. So we have a booster, and we just purchased a Wi-Fi a Wi-Fi hotspot. It's actually its own unit. Okay, we were using our phones to tether to actually get Wi-Fi for her computer, but it wasn't working real well. Even with all the stuff, the settings, because her brother's in IT, and we did all kinds of things to make the computer faster. But the reality of it is that these hotspots on your phone, I don't care what anybody says. I'm telling you, we've done the research. We've talked to just dozens of people. I'm not even kidding about this. And we found that the only real way to do this effectively, to get good, fast downloading Wi-Fi, was to get one of these separate hotspots. It's called a Nighthawk. It's Netgear makes it, and you have to buy a service plan for it for your phone provider. So for us, we bought it. It was 50 gigs a month for about $50, and that's the minimum we could get. So it was in the unit itself, man. This thing was, I want to say it was close to $300, $200, something, but it's not cheap. Okay, so right there, man, I just rattled off two things that put you in debt real quick. A couple $1,000, man. For when it's all said and done, for a yearly plan, these devices, whatever. Maybe $1,500 a month or a year, but it's not cheap. So if you want to have the conveniences of the grid tie world, you're going to pay for them when you're out here. And I'm just letting you know, this is a reality check. It was a reality check for us. It's not cheaper to live off grid a lot of times. It's actually more expensive. I hate to tell you, but there's a price tag to this. So next we got building materials. That just goes without saying. If you're going to build a house, well, especially now, look at the building material costs. I mean, it's the timing couldn't have been worse for us. We got a property, and then we come out here, and then all of a sudden building costs go up threefold. So that changed a lot for us. That changed our outlook. It changed, got depressing for a bit, and then it changed the way we're going to build. I said, well, the hell with it, man. I'm just going to do a different type of building then, the cheapest way I can, that's still a legit house. So it really just comes down to what you're building, what you want to build, what your standard of living is. And I don't mean that in a snobby way. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, if you want nice stuff, you're going to pay for nice stuff. If you want stuff that doesn't cost a lot, then, you're going to be sacrificing some things there too. So, everything has a cost. I say here, quality of life stuff. Quality of life stuff is just little doodads, little, snacks. I don't know. I mean, there's just so many little gadgets nowadays, to make your life easier, like little fans, bug spray. There's one. You don't have to have bug spray, but it sucks working out here when you don't have it. So, we had to buy bug spray on a regular basis. I didn't need that when I lived in town. Just little things. I mean, everyday things that we've noticed our bills have been going up on that stuff. And so anyways, so the purpose of this video is it's a long one. I know this is the longest one I've done, but it's because the list is long and there's more stuff here that I left out that I couldn't think of off the top of my head. But I think this is really important for people to understand that are doing this, and this is me trying to be responsible with my videos and telling you guys the truth. Like I told you before, I'm going to tell you the truth about homesteading and living off grid. I'm not going to just sugarcoat everything and make it like it's all just fun and games out here and there's no adversity and hey everybody, subscribe to my channel. I'm not going to do that to you guys. It's not who I am. So I want to tell you guys the truth and be realistic with you. And so if you're considering going off grid, homesteading, buying property, these are things you really need to think about, and you really should be putting together Excel spreadsheets or whatever you use and really itemizing things and just thinking, and add more videos to your playlist. Start looking at a lot of people's videos. That's what I did. I mean, I went to a lot of videos of people from all over the world, not just here. Honestly, I found more from other places all over the world than I could find locally. So, there's a lot of floofy channels that aren't really going to give you this information, but to me they're fun to watch for people, but they're not really going to educate you Like this kind of stuff here can just be like, okay, well, this guy said these costs. Okay, but don't take my word for it. I don't know anything. You know, just take my word, put it with 4 or 5 other people that say things, and then just you can make your own list because your needs are going to be different than mine. And you know, your situation in life, your financial situation might be different. You might have more money in the bank than I do. That's not hard to do. So you know, if you have more money in the bank and you're like, yeah, but I can afford a tractor, so I'm getting a tractor. Believe me, they're freaking, I wish I had one. I do, but they're not cheap. So if you can afford a tractor, that's great. If you can afford a lot of these things, awesome. But anyways, I hope this helps. It's Sunday. I'm gonna show you guys the plastering we've done in here. This is we put our first coat of plaster on. This is a lime plaster mixed with sand. So this part here has been smoothed down. So what we do here is then we got to go over these cracks, and I just did a spray bottle with water in it and just put gloves on and just smooth out all these cracks and fill them with water, because this is pretty normal to do here initially. So that's what we're going to be doing today, and I'm going to make a video all about lime plaster. So have a good Sunday, folks. Thanks for watching.